So when the first ever student exchange program began, the council did what all great interstellar institutions do in a crisis. It selected a teenager and hoped the universe would be polite about it. His name, unfortunate in the way young men's names so often are, was Dave Mercer, and he arrived at Galactic High with a duffel bag, a data pad, and the vague expression of someone who has just realized the school cafeteria probably doesn't know what ketchup is. The courtyard of Galactic High looked like a military recruitment poster designed by someone with access to unlimited neon and an unhealthy admiration for triangles. Students of a dozen species drifted about, dragging luggage, floating luggage, or, in one memorable case, being luggage. Dave watched a cadet attempt to carry a suitcase up 3 steps, fail, and then glare at the steps as though they had insulted his ancestors. This, Dave thought, was promising. A shadow fell across him, 4-armed, 3-eyed, and made entirely of the sort of authority that causes hallways to stand up straight. Commander Vogatron regarded Dave the way one might regard a damp sandwich left too long in a sunbeam. "You are the Earth Exchange," Vogatron said. "I was told we would receive a cadet from a high-gravity world. I expected more." Dave, who had survived parent-teacher conferences and thus knew how to handle disappointed adults, nodded gravely. "Understood, sir. I'll try to be more impressive tomorrow. Today I'm still adjusting to the entire galaxy thing." Behind Vogatron, 2 visiting coalition commandos strode in with the swagger of people who believed humility was a contagious disease. One of them, helmet tucked under his arm, looked Dave up and down and announced to anyone within earshot, "Soft skin, boy." That one was Mavrez 1. He said soft skin, boy, the way a poet might say moonlight, except with less warmth and considerably more intention to ruin someone's afternoon. Dave's assigned bunkmate was Noram Aka, a baby panda-like creature from a forest planet whose eyes were so large and sincere that lying to him felt like a minor felony. Noram introduced himself with the delicate caution of a being approaching a suspiciously friendly blender. "Do humans eat roommates?" he asked purely for research. "No," Dave said. "Only during finals." Noram considered this. So there was a schedule. The next morning, the physical assessment facility unveiled itself, an enormous room of advanced training devices that all looked as if they'd been designed by engineers who had heard rumors of exercise but had never met it personally. A floating platform rolled out a very ordinary-looking barbell. The digital display read roughly the equivalent of a high school warm-up, except the room responded to it as though it were Excalibur and someone had asked for volunteers to lift destiny. First went Goltix, iron-scaled and proud, the sort of teen who radiated alpha energy like a malfunctioning heater. He strained, he lifted, he trembled, he succeeded, barely, and then stepped back as if he had just wrestled a small planet into submission. "Acceptable," said Commander Vogatron, in a tone that implied even breathing was negotiable. Then came Timrain, pink, long-eared, blue-eyed, athletic, and extremely certain the universe owed her a win. She tried, failed, tried again with greater drama, and managed a heroic 3 inches before gravity reminded her who owned the lease. The room turned inevitably to Dave. Whispers circulated, soft skin, weak-looking, probably can't even. Dave approached the barbell with the cautious optimism of a man about to discover whether alien standard gravity meant Earth normal or convenient way to end a species. He gripped the bar with one hand, purely out of habit, and at the same moment checked his data pad with the other, because a teenager will multitask even while defusing a bomb if the notification looks urgent. He stood up. The barbell rose like a polite elevator. Silence poured across the gym. Even the machinery seemed to pause, as if it had been asked to witness a miracle and didn't want to blink. Dave looked up. Was I supposed to use both hands? Commander Vogatron's arms, usually crossed in aggressive disappointment, slowly lowered. It was the closest his species came to fainting without paperwork. Somebody insisted the weight was miscalibrated. Somebody demanded a scan. A scan was performed. No enhancements, no exoskeleton, no tricks, just Dave being apparently from Earth. And that was when the explanation arrived like a comedy drum roll. Earth's gravity and oxygen levels meant humans were, by galactic standards, walking around in a lifelong training montage. Noram Aka stared at Dave as though his roommate had just revealed he was secretly 3 motorcycles stacked in a hoodie. School, with the speed of gossip in a small town, and the accuracy of gossip in a small town. By lunch, Dave was no longer soft-skinned boy. He was the human situation. Principal Monagrek, retired illusion commander turned administrator, summoned Dave for what was described as clarification and what felt suspiciously like an interrogation wearing a tie. Monagrek's solution was a classic. If the school could not understand Dave's capabilities, it would measure them until the measuring tools cried. He instructed the resident telepath, Magnet Mind, a 4-eyed student whose talent for reading thoughts had made him insufferable at parties, to scan Dave and report back. Magnet Mind approached Dave with confident menace, reached into his mind, and immediately regretted every decision that had led to consciousness. He staggered back, eyes wide, as if Dave's skull contained a marching band, and none of them agreed on the song. It's chaos, Magnet Mind babbled to Monagrek, trembling. Math, physics, comics.games, random facts, an alarming amount of snack-related strategy. It's like a library got hit by a tornado, and the tornado is also doing homework. Then he had what can only be described as a nervous breakdown on principle, proving at last that there are minds even a telepath ought not to tidy. Dave, for his part, looked genuinely apologetic. Sorry, that's pretty normal. The following week, Galactic Coalition commandos visited the school, which caused students to line corridors the way citizens line streets for parades, except these parades involved more armor and fewer municipal bands. Mavrez won, and Captain Darprez led the delegation, wearing the expression shared by professional warriors and high-end chefs, contempt for anything not forged in fire. Darprez pointed at Dave in front of everyone, as if selecting a volunteer to be embarrassed. So this is the exchange. The soft-skinned boy. Dave smiled politely, which only made them happier, because bullies adore good manners. Principal Monagrek watched the exchange with the calm of a man who had once commanded fleets and now had to manage teenagers, which is frankly the harder job. He decided, on the spot, that the school required a training session, educational in the way disasters are educational. The gym was converted into a spectacle arena. Students packed the upper platforms, cameras hovered, rumors multiplied. Betting pools formed with the speed and moral flexibility of adolescence. Monagrek stood at center court, hands clasped behind his back. We will conduct a simple comparative demonstration, he announced. The commandos will set a standard. Cadet Mercer will attempt to meet it. Captain Darprez laughed. Attempt. Commander Vogatron and Dr. Romnix observed from the sidelines. Vogatron with suspicion, Romnix with the fascinated expression of a doctor watching biology misbehave. Figo Croc, reptilian commando and assistant, checked equipment and looked like he'd enjoy writing incident reports. The commandos began with a strength drill, then an agility drill, then a coordination drill, each designed, quite carefully, to make a human teenager look like a damp towel attempting heroism. Dave watched, nodded, and then stepped up with the gentle willingness of someone helping carry groceries. Not realizing the groceries were, apparently, national pride. He lifted what they lifted. Then he lifted it again, slightly faster, because the first time felt like a rehearsal. He ran the course they ran, except he made one small adjustment. He did it while responding to Noram Aka's whispered questions, because Noram had chosen this moment to ask whether humans could fall over on command as a social tactic. Dave answered mid-sprint. That did not improve morale among the commandos. Then came the final event, a combat conditioning circuit designed to break form, breath, and confidence. Darprez strutted through it like a promotional video. Mavrez 1 finished with a flourish and stared at Dave as if expecting tears. Dave stepped in, inhaled, and treated the circuit like a high school PE day with better lighting. The entire school watched, first with glee, then with confusion, then with the hush of collective recalculation. Goltix, who had once believed himself the natural apex of the class, stared in iron-scaled silence, experiencing what he would later describe as identity damage. Tim Raine looked at Dave with the bright, dangerous focus of someone falling in love against her better judgment. Captain Darpre's smile faded by degrees like a sunset, except less beautiful and far more satisfying. Mavers 1 finally muttered, "Soft skin, boy." But this time it sounded less like an insult and more like a medical mystery. Principal Monogrec turned to Commander Vogatron. "So," he said pleasantly, "Earth's exchange program appears viable." Vogatron, after a long pause, said the thing no commander enjoys saying in public. "We must revise our assumptions." Dave, sweaty and bewildered, looked up at the packed stands. "So, do I still have to do homework?" The roar of laughter that followed echoed through the school like the first friendly earthquake in recorded history.